reading tonight is from Psalm chapter 8. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory in the heavens. Through the praise of children and infants, you have established a stronghold against your enemies to silence the foe and the avenger. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place. What is humanity that you are mindful of them, human beings that you care for them? You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them ruler over the work of your hands. You put everything under their feet. All flocks and herds, and the animals of the wild, the birds in the sky, and the fish in the sea, all that swim the paths of the seas. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. This is the word of the Lord.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. A little chilly tonight, but warm in here. My name's Denise Powell, just in case you didn't know me. And if I haven't met you, I'd love to meet you over a cuppa after church. I don't know if we have baked goods or not tonight, but you never know. We did an end-of-year survey in November last year, and one of the questions we asked is, what topics would you like to hear spoken about? And one of those topics was the intersection of science and faith. And so I thought about that. I thought, that's a really good topic. Somebody up there's like, I did that. And so I spent some time thinking, like, who could I ask? Somebody who's a scientist, but also a Christian. And I thought about a few different people and how could I get in contact with them. And then it sort of dawned on me that actually my son has a PhD in chemistry. And he's also a Christian, so maybe I should just ask him. That was a whole lot easier. So Dr Joshua Powell completed his Bachelor of Science honours in chemistry at UQ in 2018, and then completed his PhD in chemistry at Texas A&M in 2023. He worked in industry then for about a year, where he did commercial research and development in porous materials. I'll ask him about that later. And then he returned to UQ, to the School of Chemical Engineering, where he's a postdoctoral research fellow. As I understand it, he does things with test tubes and particle accelerators and tries very hard to avoid any explosions of any sort. So if you could welcome my son, Dr Joshua Powell. I've bought you some hot chocolate, I thought.
Oh, have you? Yeah. I love that. I didn't need to bring my water.
No. I thought it might make you feel at home.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and of course, you're giving me the study Greek one coffee
no,
mug
this one's
instead.
mine.
Oh,
This
okay.
one's mine.
Good,
Yours
good.
is the... Don't you remember this one?
No.
No.
I've left all my various American Chemical Society mugs at home. So.
Well, this was your old Christmas cup.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. This shows you how much I remember.
Yeah. Made myself a cup of tea. It's very strong. All right, so how's that sound working for everyone? Yeah, cool. All right. Well, it really is lovely to have you, Josh.
Dr. Powell.
Dr. Powell. I wondered if we might just have a conversation.
Yeah,
You've been in
go for it.
Texas for 5 years, been back for about a year, and I don't know if we've really caught up on this topic much. We kind of touched on it last week. So I thought I might just start by asking you how you got interested in science and also how you got interested in God, because they're the two things that we're having a chat about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm your kid. So I grew up kind of in a Christian household, and so going to church regularly. And if what you've told me is correct, I gave my life to God when I was 5. And then in terms of science, again, I've pretty much always been interested in science. I can remember doing, and this maybe ages me, but like the film canister bottle rockets with Dad in the backyard. Those were probably my first like chemistry experiments. You put baking soda and vinegar in, it reacts, it forms carbon dioxide, and the top of the film canister goes flying off into the sky. So, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So that's when you were quite young.
Can we try this one?
Oh, yeah,
Hey.
that's much better. All right. Thank you. Is that... Oh, yes, I can hear myself now. Cool, that's good. All right, so you're saying both of those things happened when you were very young.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you didn't stay a little kid. Like, how was that?
No. So, yeah, and I mean, this maybe is going to touch on some of the stuff that that I have thoughts about, the intersection between faith and science, is that I kind of gained a more adult interest in both at around the same time, which was late high school.
Can I just ask you if either of these have anything to do with your orthodontist?
No, I don't think they have anything to do with my orthodontist,
Okay,
because that also did happen around late high school.
Because I remember you coming home. You did not have a brilliant time at the orthodontist. And that whole, like, have to chip your braces off at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you coming home from school saying, "Mum, I have found my life's purpose." And I'm like, "Okay, what's your life's purpose?" And you said, "I'm going to invent a solvent that dissolves orthodontic glue without damaging tooth enamel."
Yeah,
And
I
that was
do
your life's
indeed
purpose.
remember that.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember, because I think I was actually at uni at the time, and I looked up people who worked in like dental cement at UQ, and there are indeed a couple. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, but that wasn't...
That's...
okay,
I
all right.
mean,
Because it seemed important at the time.
In my memory, that's not the reason that I ended up doing a PhD in chemistry.
Okay.
I mean, like, in high school, I had some very good science teachers, and, you know, it was very interesting to me. I liked learning about science and about how the world worked, and that it just caught my attention and my interest. And then, you know, mostly unrelated, but around the same time, you know, I was... starting to get more involved with church, going to youth group and then going to, church on Sunday nights. And yeah, getting more involved in a church that I found a home in, because, the churches that we went to that, we were going to when I was growing up,
Yep.
I didn't necessarily connect well at all of them. And when I moved over to Capera Baptist, which was the church that I went to in that kind of high school uni period, that was a place that I really did connect with, and so that kind of by proxy allowed me to, get more involved in my faith. And then, when I started uni, getting involved with like Campus Christian Group as well. Had people around me. I guess in both cases, I had people around me who were, excited and serious about science and faith independently.
In those spaces?
In those spaces.
Okay.
And then, kind of, I was interested in both, and I had people who were engaging with both, and
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about the kind of how they come together, which is a problem for some people. So were there times when you found those two things, which were both important to you in your life, when they kind of clashed and you didn't quite know what to do with them?
Not really, to be
Okay.
honest. And, I don't know exactly why that is, that it's never been a big conflict for me. I've certainly had other people who were worried on my behalf. I remember getting asked by a Christian mentor at uni about, so Josh, have you thought about the question of science and faith and how they go together? And I'm like, I guess. Like, that was kind of my answer. And, we had this conversation where he warned me about, make sure that God's not just a God of the gaps and, that he's not just filling in the stuff that you don't understand with your science. And, that's valid because I think God's a lot more than that.
So a God in the gaps.
Yeah.
What exactly do you mean by that?
I mean, the idea that, science explains most of the world and God's just there to explain the stuff that science can't.
Okay. And so as your science knowledge grows, God
diminishes.
sort of shrinks.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
and that's kind of the worry I suspect that he had was
Right.
that, God is more than just the bits that we don't understand. I think he's more than that.
Yep. But that didn't really bother you.
No, and this is, when you asked me about some of these questions, a couple of weeks ago, and I was reflecting on this, I think that the concept of uncertainty is one that's drilled into you as a scientist, and it's something that does influence my faith, in the sense that, when you're in science, and you probably experienced this in your PhD too, a PhD is a lot about what you don't know more than what you do know.
Yep. Follow the evidence to where it leads.
Yeah.
But what if it leads somewhere you don't want to go?
Well, then sucks to be you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so by going through and working as a researcher for the past, 7 years or whatever it's been, I've had to be comfortable with not knowing everything and not knowing exactly how bits fit together and, having things that maybe seem like they don't fit together. Like, the classic example is light is both a particle and a wave, right?
I was thinking about that just today.
Yeah. And so we know that light acts as a particle and light acts as a wave. And
But how can that be?
how can that be? Because light is light and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, there's probably bits that we don't understand, and we don't understand how those two things can be the same, can be, true at the same time, but the evidence says
So
that
you
they
have
are.
to just sit there.
Yeah,
with
you have
the
to
two
sit there and
things.
be okay with that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying, as a scientist, you had to come to terms with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did it ever bother you? Did it drive you nuts at, how can light be a wave and particles?
It was certainly confusing, and, it certainly drove me nuts that we didn't have dissolvable orthodontic glue.
Yeah.
And, how has nobody come up with an answer to this yet?
Yeah.
But my motivation is not one of just I don't understand this. It's driving me insane. It's more of one of, this is what it is. So let's try and work out why, right? Because trying to get to the why and understand, that's what interests me in science, is learning things, understanding things, discovering things.
So how does that then move across to faith? What's the parallel?
So I think that one of the parallels with it is we don't understand God, I don't think. There's all sorts of metaphors that we use. There's metaphors in the Bible. There's metaphors that we use because the biblical ones are all about agriculture and we don't understand them. And so we try and explain God through metaphors and analogies. And I think it's kind of the same in that we know that we don't quite get to a perfect description of what God is. But we can get close and we can draw analogies from the things that we do understand
But sometimes they conflict.
But sometimes they conflict because they're not perfect analogies.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you were going?
Yeah.
Have you got a metaphor in mind?
Oh, not specifically, no.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. I mean, I guess like father is a metaphor. Is that?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then
Actually,
there's king as well?
Yeah, that's a great one to talk about. Right, because we talk about God being father.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, for me, I had a great relationship with Dad. And so that's a analogy that resonates with me, and I have this picture in my head of God as father, and it's derived from, you know, my experience with Dad.
Yeah.
But I also know that there are other people who don't have great experiences with their fathers, and so the concept of God as father is a bit more jarring. And so it's not a perfect analogy for some people, and there's more that goes into God's role as father than, you know, me looking just at Dad or another person looking at their father. Yeah. I was going to bring this up later, but, you know, in terms of, like, picturing God, you know, I picture God... I had this conversation with Hannah, my wife, a couple of weeks ago about, you know, how do we picture God? And, you know, somewhere along the line, I got this, you know, concept of, oh, well, when you die and you go to heaven, right, in a simplistic way, when you die and you go to heaven, you get to ask God whatever you want, and he'll give you an answer.
Okay.
And I picture those conversations...
I hate to burst your bubble on that, but I'm the one with the PhD in theology, and it's not going to work like that.
Oh, well, I guess I have to be okay with being uncertain about that then. But, like, the concept that I have of that is twofold. Number one, it's sitting on the floor in front of the sofa with Dad sitting on the sofa and listening to him as a kid.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's one of those, like, interactions with God that I have.
That's interesting because thinking about metaphor, like the first thing that comes to my mind is that picture in Isaiah 6 of going into the temple, and like there's this, you know, God's there and you're kind of at God's feet. The train of his temple fills the train of his robe fills the temple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I picture it more in the, like, you know, Jesus saying, "Let all the little children come to me."
Right.
Because
that's actually quite different, isn't
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not like this big power differential.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's a kid looking up to their dad
Right.
because, like, their dad can do no wrong a little bit.
Yeah.
But the other aspect that I have, and the other image that I have, is getting coffee with a senior colleague. Mm-hmm. Because I know that senior colleague knows more than me.
Right.
And I want to know what they know, and they want me to know what they know.
Yeah.
And we're having this conversation about science or whatever it is. You know, it's not necessarily going to be about science with God, but having this conversation and going back and forth as colleagues, even though, you know, God knows more than me, he's the senior colleague, it's still a back and forth conversation.
Yeah.
So... And again, those two things, right? They're, you know, sitting at my dad's feet and having coffee with a senior colleague.
They're very different.
They're very different, but I still think that they're both true about the way that I can interact with God.
They're particle and wave.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so classic question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when the Bible, which I suppose is where a lot of our understanding of God comes. Actually, it was really interesting that Shane or John picked that Psalm 19 because I was thinking that you would probably really like Psalm 19. I don't know if you have
read it later.
Yeah, you should read it later because because it talks about God revealed in two different ways. It's a really weird psalm because it seems to have two completely different topics, because one is like, oh, God's this amazing God of the universe, and I sit and meditate on his laws day and night. And you're like, okay, what's the connection? But the connection is there are these two books that God has given for us to understand. And one is the world and one is the word, and they really should stay together, but we've kind of ripped them apart. Sorry, I don't know where I was going with that or you're going with that, but what were we talking about?
Unscientific things in the Bible.
Yes,
Yeah.
unscientific things. Yeah, so what happens when the word clashes with the world? What happens when you read stuff in the Bible and you go, well, that doesn't fit with what I know about the world?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different answers to this, and it depends on the specific word-world conflict, right? So there's some things which I read something in the Bible and I look at the world and go, okay, well, they don't match. And then I look back at the Bible and go, okay, well, what is the genre? What's the purpose of this piece, right?
Yep.
So, classic example being creation.
Yep.
And so, creation is written not as a factual transcription of events. It's written as a poem or like literature to convey meaning. And so, when I look at the genre of that, I go, okay, well, that clearly, is not meant to be a like literal thing, right? So perhaps these two things do go together. God said, let there be light. Does that mean that God snapped his fingers and there was light?
Does he have fingers?
Does he have fingers? Does it mean that God snapped his fingers and the Big Bang happened, right?
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to the uncertainty and like, is this really important as well? Of like, is it vital to me that, the exact text of the Bible is an exact transcription of what happened? And I don't think that's the purpose of the Bible. And so I'm okay with it not being a perfect transcription of events because that's not what the book is there for.
Yeah.
And that kind of touches on the second thing, which is, I think, my personal belief, right, is that Scripture has some inspiration. That doesn't mean it fell from the sky, but it meant that God's hand guided people to write it down.
Okay.
And
we should have another conversation.
We should have another
that.
conversation
Sounds
about
really
this.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to chat about that.
Sorry, where was I going with that? Right. And so, if God's hand is guiding people to write things down, why? Why are people choosing to write this down? Why is God's hand, encouraging people to write down these specific things?
Yep.
So if you think about, in the Gospels, for example, each of the Gospels has different events that take place, and there's a couple that are the same. Like all of them have a crucifixion, for example.
Yeah.
All
of them have the feeding of the
5,000, and that is exactly where I was going.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Because, what was so important that it had to be written down 4 different times to different audiences about this specific event? And so kind of my read on that is, it's important that God is shown as a provider to people. And so even if the exact events didn't happen in the way that they're written, it was important to all of the authors of the gospel, and by extension, I think important to God, that he is shown to be a provider for his people.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to talk about that story again sometime too, because there's some really cool stuff like Luke has... That story is really crucial because Jesus breaks the bread and like looks up to heaven, and there's all of these literary bits, and then they come out again at the Last Supper, and then again at the people who are on their way to Emmaus. You know, like Jesus does this thing with the bread, and so there's kind of repeated things.
Yeah.
And some of those aren't in the
other
gospel. One of them, I can't remember which one. It's not Luke. One of them has something about the green grass, like the grass is green. And like it's this like little detail that's not in any of the other gospels, and you think, what was that about? Mark? Was it Mark? Huh. Yeah, okay. Anyway, that's off topic, but
Yeah.
yeah,
There's
okay.
one more
so
thing
yeah.
on
Miracles?
the like
You're still
miracles,
on miracles? Yeah.
right? So you know, I think that when God created the world, however he did it, he created a world with rules and structure.
Yeah.
Right, because the world wouldn't work if, you know, gravity suddenly inverted itself at random timescales, and like, you know, if those rules weren't consistent and regular.
But is gravity even real? Because we don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have some ideas
Okay.
about what it is
Anyway,
in particle
yep.
physics, but
Yep,
you know,
okay,
that's
cool.
an aside.
That's another conversation.
But yeah, so we have rules. Like
Yeah.
if all of the forces that held your atoms together might randomly disappear at any moment,
Yeah.
how could we exist,
Okay.
right? As humanity, as creation.
Yep.
And God made a good creation. I think that's a
It
key,
was good.
That's a key
It
message
was good.
in that.
It was
that,
good, and
you
it was
know,
good, and God saw it and was
yeah,
good.
that's one of the key messages in creation.
Right.
And so God made this world with rules.
Yeah.
And, you know, he gave it to us, and, you know, that allows us to enjoy the discovery of those rules, right? So I'm in the lab, and I have an idea about how I think the world works, and so I go and do experiments. I make a new material, and I do experiments on it, and oh my gosh, it works the way that I thought it would. And like that's a huge, big, exciting moment for me, the excitement of discovery.
I know it
and-
was a huge, exciting moment for me because you sent me a photo.
Yeah, I know.
And it was all excited, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is.
Yeah. And, you know, I went and I named my new material because
Yes.
I was probably the first person in the world to ever see this material.
Yep. That is very cool.
Which is very cool, yeah. And, like, you know, I think that's a joy that God's given us. You know, he's a creating God. We're made in the image of God. We are also creators. And so we get joy out of seeing something that we've created.
I would like to poke around that a little more.
Yeah, yeah.
Because...
Can I
Yeah.
just finish on the miracles thing, though?
Yeah.
So God's made a world with rules, but I think that God is a powerful enough God that he can break those rules.
Okay.
And so, you know, I know that the atoms in water are not the same atoms as the atoms in wine, and yet God made water into wine. Or the resurrection, for example, that's, I think, perhaps a more important one, is that, you know, a lot of Christianity is, you know, it hinges on the resurrection, right? That's the big event.
Yep.
And I think if the resurrection was something that might just scientifically happen to somebody, then, you know, why was Jesus special? And so I think Jesus is special because God broke the rules around Jesus to show us something. So he broke the rules to show us, you know, not that was the only way that he could save humanity and redeem us and whatnot, but more as a showing us this is how far I would go for you in a way that we understand. Jesus is the Son of God, right? I'm willing to give my son to you guys for redemption. And people are going to understand that because fathers have sons. It's in the same way that the parables exist, right, to draw something that is kind of difficult to understand down to a concrete example, I think that the resurrection is in part...
It's like a giant parable.
Yeah, it's like a giant parable. And so God's showing us that, yeah, look, my son is important to me. You all understand how important your sons are. And this is what I'm willing to do because I love you and I want you with me. Yeah.
Okay.
You've got thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have thoughts on that, but that's for another
Yeah.
time. Because I have thoughts on miracles as well.
Yeah.
But see, because I come from I'm not thinking about it through the lens of science. I'm thinking about miracles through the lens of literature and what they're doing in there. So that's really interesting to hear you talk about it from a science perspective. Yeah, and the water into wine. Because there's no carbon atoms
Very good.
in water.
Very good. You were listening when we prepped this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were going to bounce something off.
Yeah. Okay, so I did this whole sermon series on wisdom a couple of years ago and feel like I learned a lot through doing that. And one of the things was that there's, like, the ancients didn't really see that the physical universe is any different than, let's call it, the moral universe. So there's the laws of nature that you were just talking about, and they're kind of like they're woven through the universe, right? They're woven into the fabric of the universe, gravity and whatever, law of attraction and quantum entanglement. Although no, actually that's a different thing altogether. But there's also this moral universe, and I hate the word moral because it comes with all this baggage, but just go with me.
Yeah.
There's also like moral laws woven into the universe as well.
Like what is good and what is bad.
Yes, like if I treat you well, then you'll probably treat me well. So it's a wise thing for me to go with to live my life according to the grain of the universe. Why are you laughing?
Because I'm trying to remember which one it is. It's one of Newton's laws.
Equal and opposite.
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically the physics version of what goes around comes around.
It is. It is. Karma.
Yeah.
Newton's law.
Yeah.
It's all tied together.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I
So the whole wisdom literature in the Bible, or at least some of it, is encouraging us to figure out what are the moral laws in the universe so that we can live in accordance with them. And because you want to live with the grain of the laws of the universe, not against them, because that's the way that you have a good life. And so equally, what you're doing is figuring out the physical laws of the universe so that we can also live with the grain of those. And if we'd done that right from the start, we wouldn't have climate change.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Don't worry, I'm working on it.
Okay, good. Look, we've got more questions, and we're running out of time because we're just chatting here. Do you think that your faith makes you a better scientist?
Do I think that my faith makes me a better scientist? Yeah. I think that it's certainly, when I think about my concept of the world, right, that includes, you were talking about physical and moral grains of the universe, thinking about like physical and spiritual worlds, right? My worldview contains both of those. And so, my joy of discovery, it kind of transcends that spiritual and physical world boundary. It exists in both of those. And so I know that God gave me the joy of discovery. That's something that came from, I suppose, the spiritual aspects, and is present in me, and I suspect probably in just about everybody. And so that gives me the drive and the interest to find new things and to discover the world around me, and to, and this is a whole nother thing, but like try and make the world a better place, because God gave us the world, right? And that's good. That's in Genesis. Yeah, God gave us a good world, and He said, take care of it.
Yeah.
And so, when I think about what are the reasons that I'm doing my research, I work with materials that can be used for like carbon capture and stuff. And so, you mentioned climate change. Hopefully,
and plastics.
Yeah. Yep.
PFAS.
Yep. PFAS. I've done some work with that as well. So yeah, kind of working on these big problems that are impacting God's creation. That's one of many reasons why I do the things that I do.
We're out of time, but I heard a cool quote that I thought was really interesting. I tweaked it a little bit. The idea that science and faith don't have to be separate domains, that they can be integrated. And this person said, science without religion is arrogance, like it can lead to arrogance.
I've met plenty of those people, yep.
Okay. And religion without science is blind.
I've met plenty of those people too.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. That's really it.
Yeah.
Just the idea that to really understand the world, you kind of need both to work in synergy with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look, I'm sure people will want to chat with you over.
Sure.
Yeah. Over.
We'll be here for coffee.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Thank you.